He stated that in a culture, its fate is determined by how a culture faces the challenges it encounters. Keeping that in mind, I think the Hindu civilization has always faced a lot of challenges throughout the history. Still, and it still survives because we faced the challenges, adapted to the needs of the circumstances posed by the challenges. We revived ourselves, and time to time, there have been always a rebuilding process. A renovation always have been happening. So preservation is our core. If we look at the history of India, for the last thousand years, we have been continuously facing several kinds of very brutal attack on our civilizations, on our culture. And yet we survive, and time to time, sometimes some individuals or a group of people or a movement or some kind of a activity come up in time to combat the problems which we are facing. And Kerala, from where I come from, also had faced kind of brutal attacks on the basic existence of dharma in Kerala. And there have been an inspiring story of examples of rebuilding of the demolished culture happened, which is not so loud, but very inspiring. So I will start my talk with setting the background how the temples of Malabar, which is the Malabar, faced attacks and it got demolished. And then I'll talk about a great personality. In my opinion, I personally believe he is the father of Kerala, modern Kerala, and how he heralded a temple reclamation movement. And I will talk about present examples of few temples rebuilt in Malappuram and Kannur district. So Kerala, as we all know, is known as Parashurama Kshetra, reclaimed by sage Lord Parashurama from the sea. And he established 108 Shiva temples and Durga temples. And the historical records of Kerala's existence starts from even in Sangam age, we can see talking about Kerala. And then being the coastal area, it had constantly, it was associated with foreigners, Arabs, Jews, Syrians, Romans, Persians and all. But things were going, it was having real good trade relationships, but things were not that violent or offensive. But when this Portuguese came, the scenario changed. There had been violent encounters. Then came the Dutch. But somehow among all kind of attacks what happened in Kerala, the most brutal and the devastating was the invasions by the Mysorean army led by Hyder Ali and his son Tippu. Their attack, it really changed the dharmic nature of Kerala. It weakened the land, the Hindu nature of the land economically and as well as spiritually. And grand temples of Malabar has been ransacked and plundered and totally demolished to the core. After Tipu's invasion, Malabar fell into the Britishers' hand. That was not really a peaceful time. Historians speak about sporadic attacks by certain groups of Moplas or the Muslims, and they kind of, if we equate it, they go and in groups they raid some Hindu landlord's house, attack like how these Naxals are used to attack the landlords, and they kill the men, take the women, destroy the temple in the house. So that has been, so Sridhara Menon, the historian of Kerala, has reported 22 of such sporadic attacks between 1836 and 1856. But not much people talk much about it, just a few sentences we can see in certain books here and there. And when this kind of attacks became rampant, British tried to appease these Moplas by giving some tax soaps, some freebies. But that didn't work well. In 1921, when the Khilafat agitation was organized by the Congress and Mahatma Gandhi, the movement went really brutally violent in Malabar region, in Malappuram, Kozhikode area. And then we saw very brutal attack on temples. They desecrated the temples, vandalized the murtis. They used to hang the entrails and skulls as garlands around the deities. So the wound of Mapla riots is not yet healed in Malabar, and a lot of temples got demolished across Malappuram and Calicut. That was in 1921. But that was the time where, through Congress movement and various caste movements, lot of leaders were emerging in Kerala. One such leader is his name is Kelappan. So his full name is Koyapalli Kelappan Nair, or known as Kelappaji, and he's also known as the Kerala Gandhi for him being, he was a Gandhian, and he worked very much for the upliftment of the society, Sarvodaya movement, and for the temple entry of the Harijans in Guruvayur, Vaikam Satyagraha. And he was a Kalaripayattu practitioner, and he's from a great Shakteya Sadhaka family. His grand uncle was a great Upasaka in the Shakteya system. So with this legacy, he actually he was a very brave leader, if we say so, because there is an instance of him facing the Mapla rioters single-handedly in near Kuttipuram, who were heading to Ponnani, and he could really stop them there. And Kelappaji started his social activities by being part of the founder members of the Nair Sabha, which now we know as Nair Service Society. And then he later, in 1920s, he became a Gandhian. He joined the non-cooperation movement and all. And then led the Salt Satyagraha, Sarvodaya campaign. And meanwhile, India got independence. So he became an MP from Ponnani. But he understood that for the upliftment of the society, this political activism is not enough. And he also understood that the secular democracy is not enough, or it's not doing enough for the betterment of the upliftment of the Hindu society. And he realized rebuilding of our temples, the demolished temples has to be rebuilt. Then only Kerala, the people of Kerala can have a dignified life, can have a prosperous life. Recognizing that, he thought, okay, I will start my. So he thought he will start reconsecrate the Angadipuram Tali temple, which is near Perindalmanna in Malappuram district. The Angadipuram Tali Shiva temple, he wanted to rebuild it. That was the EMS was the chief minister of the time. So after Maupala riots, basically British had given a ban for building mosques in Malappuram because they didn't want to aggravate the situations anymore. Then EMS, the communist government under EMS had practically lifted that ban and allowed them to build mosque. But then at that time, when Hindus under the leadership of Kelappan approached the government to allow building this temple in the Puramboku Bhumi, the government land which is there, where the temple actually was, then they didn't allow. The communist government was so antagonistic towards this request of Hindus. At that time, communists had a slogan that the Shivalinga of the temple was lying on the street with a lot of bushes, in the middle of a lot of bushes and all. So the Marxists and the Muslim League, they were allies at that time. And they used to make a slogan telling where the dogs, that's on the stone on which the dogs were urinating, Kelappan put sandal paste, chandanam. So that was their attitude. That actually provoked the Hindus of the area. So, and they started an agitation. They were arrested, and in front of the police station, all the women and men from the area and across Kerala came and started chanting Namah Shivaya. And knowing Kelappaji's perseverance as a protest in his agitations, where EMS was afraid, and they planned to make archaeological department to take over this land and put this under archaeological department, so that then these Hindus cannot do anything. That can be preserved and kept well lighted, maybe, as now they light a lot of tombs. So, but that really didn't work. The people, especially women, under a great lady named Yashoda Madhavan, they broke in the fence and entered the land. And they started, and then everybody together, the Hindu community started building the temple. The consecration process, everything they started. So for all these activities, Kelappaji started an organization named Malabar Kshetra Samrakshana Samiti, which now later developed into Kerala Kshetra Samrakshana Samiti. And Angadipuram temple this was in 1968, and the temple building process went on. Swami Chinmayananda Swamiji gave his support and gave 17,000 rupees for building the temple. And in 1971, Kelappaji died. But Kerala Kshetra Samrakshana Samiti, which was founded by him, have rebuilt a lot of temples across Malabar. Even when we travel in bus across Calicut, Kozhikode district, Malappuram, Kannur districts, you can see most of the temples we see on the roadside, we see that will be rebuilt by Kshetra Samrakshana Samiti. So that is a great, like literally almost all the temples were destroyed, and you can see most of the temples, like 2 days ago when I was traveling, most of the temples I saw was built by rebuilt by Kshetra Samrakshana Samiti in 70s and 80s and 90s and recently. So that is the one story of the Kelappaji really identified the actually what need to be done for rebuilding Kerala. So we usually don't see this episode of his life in any textbooks. We see about him in the textbooks as he is a leader of Salt Satyagraha, Vaikam and Guruvayur temple entry movement leader. That's it. Further, nobody talks and everybody prefer to forget him because of through his life, he actually showed what is exactly needed for the survival of Hindus in Kerala. Now I will talk about another one story of a wealthy Muslim named Unniyan Sahib. He embraced Hindu Dharma in 1946 with his brother and his 2 sons. He did Garvapasi from Arya Samaj, and his sons were named as Fateh Singh and Joravar Singh after Guru Gobind Singh Ji's sons killed by Aurangzeb. He told that this is not a mistake. I am reconverting to rectify the mistake done by my mother, who was forcefully converted during this, grandmother, who was converted during Tipu's invasion or some other time, and who didn't reconvert back to Hinduism. And his brother later became Narasimhan Nambudiri, and he was married to a Nambudiri woman by the local one Nambudiri family after he underwent the rituals to become a Brahmin. And this Unniyan Sahib took the name Ramasimhan. Ramasimhan had a rubber estate and a bungalow, and he actually got inspired to convert to Hinduism because of the presence of a temple in that compound, which was demolished during Tipu's invasion. And that temple is a Narasimha Murthy temple. It's known as Malaparambu Narasimha Murthy temple in Mattummal. It's also near Perindalmanna in Malappuram district. But this wealthy Muslim's conversion to Hinduism threatened the local Muslims because they were worried that this may inspire many others and there can be an exodus from Islam to Hinduism. So they wanted to punish this guy, this apostate who converted from Islam to Hinduism. And in 2nd August of 1947, a group of people led by the father-in-law of this Ramasimhan, his wife left once he converted to Hinduism, and her father and brother and a group of other people ambushed their house and slaughtered the entire family. Ramasimhan, his brother Narasimhan, and his wife Kamala, and they had a Brahmin cook, Raju Iyer. They all were slaughtered, and their body remained there. Nobody really came to take the body either. Everyone became so much frozen, in a sense. And then the local court sentenced these people, the culprits, but sentenced to death, but Madras High Court acquitted them. The judge had told, although this was a very gruesome murder, cold-blooded murder, there was no enough evidence to punish these people because the Mapla community were very much successful in maintaining secrecy. There was no witness, there was no evidence in the court. So they were acquitted. Later, in 1992, the local Hindus started reconstruction of the Narasimha temple. 13 years of legal struggle followed, and the Narasimha Murthy Temple Trust got back some land where the temple was situated earlier, and the temple is reconstructed, almost reconstructed now. On 2005, the trust got 67 cent of property after a court order. And the Malaparamba Narasimha Murthy Charitable Trust was registered in 2003. Kanji Acharya conferred his blessings and presented a check of 10 lakhs for the reconstruction of the temple. And the temple is now functioning very well in the same place where it was located earlier. But the vast land belonged to the temple. There are hospitals working in that, owned by the Muslim Educational Society, like that. In that area, when we go there, we can see the temple is, but still the temple could, Hindus could reconstruct the temple, and the temple is functioning well now. Now, I will talk about 4 temples known as Nalambalam, because the temples for Sri Ramaswamy and his brothers Bharata, Shatrugna and Lakshmana. It's also in Malappuram district. There are other Nalambalams in Thrissur district and in Kottayam district. And in Malappuram also there are these 4 temples in a nearby area. So Vadakkedattumana and Tekkedattumana in Ramapuram near Mangala in Malappuram. The Salagrama Murthy of Rama is believed to have been brought from Nepal to the Vadakkedattumana by a Brahmin 1,000 years ago. Tipu's troops ambushed these 4 temples. Lakshmana Swami temple was completely demolished. Bharata Shatrugna temple also ruined. Rama temple was not fully demolished, but still it was attacked and vandalized. In 19th century itself, Rama temple was rebuilt by the family. But the other 3 temples, the rebuilding process is going on, but not yet complete because of lack of funds. You know, the demography of Hindus in Malappuram is very weak. The Hindus are really minority, but because of that and the overall economic weakness, the rebuilding process is also facing little bit of, it's going on in a slow pace, but almost is done. The Lakshmana temple is almost completed, and it is managed by a committee of people formed in the from the local community. Since the demography is low, a Brahmin from Kanpur is the Archaka in this temple. And then the Bharata temple at Chirammal and Shatrugna temple at Naranatha. Here also the renovation works are going on, and Shatrugna temple is administered by Tekkedattumana, and Bharata temple is administered by a committee of devotees. Rama temple, which was already have been rebuilt in 19th century, and that Rama temple is the prominent one among these temples. It has been taken over by Malabar Devaswam Board. So that is another trend which we see in Kerala, that when the people together collect funds, they accumulate whatever they have and join together and build a temple, rebuild the destroyed temple, abandoned temples. And then the devotee starts coming, the temple starts generating income. Governments come in and they take over the temple for better administration. But when they never ever we have heard there was any of these Devasam board trying to use the money they already have to rebuild some of the vandalized, destroyed temple, or uh, promote the religion in the areas where the Hindu community is a bit weak. They don't do that. They don't give anything, or they don't contribute anything for the dharma. But when people, out of their devotion and they take initiative and reconstruct a temple, maintain a temple, they show how to run a temple, the government board finds some kind of a mismanagement, according to them, and take it over to manage it better and make it more, in my opinion, make it more secular, democracy compatible. So then, next, another one temple. So I will talk about one, my time is gone. So, so 2-3 temples more is there, just talk fast. There is a Vamanamurthy temple in Malappuram, in Kalad, a village near Tirur. This was consecrated by Villuvamangalatha Swamiyar. And temple was built on an area of 1.80 acres. And then there was a 1.56 acres of ground in front of the temple, which was the Ulsava ground. Tipu's troops vandalized the temple, and the locals rebuilt the temple with the Upadevadas in 19th century, and it continued to function well. And it used to get 12,000 paras, means 112 tons of paddy as annual rental revenue. And they used to have annual festival of 28 days on Thiruvonam Nakshatram of Tulam month. Daily Annadanam also was going on. Then in 1921, during Mapla riots, the temple was vandalized and looted. The Murti was broken, and then within a decade, the people partially restored the temple, but the land was taken over by the Muslims, and they were not giving rent. Collecting the rent was a big task. Still the temple sustained, but then came the secular democracy, and after independence, land reorganization happened. Communist taking over of land from the bourgeois and giving to the poor people, and then the temple became poor. So the temple lost most of the land, and it remained abandoned because the local Hindus also became so poor. Later, with the Gulf migration, local Hindus started getting some money, becoming rich. Then in 1980s, local Hindus who were taking vrata for Sabarimala just found this, and they started lighting lamp there, and then gradually all the people had this wish to rebuild the temple, and reconstruction happened. Now there is a small temple and a school in this place where near this temple. It's along the banks of river Bharatapuzha. And there was a Shiva temple also, which was destroyed completely. The Shivalingam was broken completely. So now they have reconstructed that temple also. And yeah, that is another example. Annadanam and the festival and all is not happening as it was earlier, but still the temple was reconstructed. Then I will talk about 2 temples in Kannur first. Then that is done. So that is Vadeshwaram Mahashiva Kshetra in Kannur. This temple was built by the Mushika king in 4th century CE. It was built in a unique architecture named Ashtadala style of architecture. With that Garbha Sanctum Sanctorium is in the shape of 8 petals. So this grand temple, it was a very massive and huge temple, and it was destroyed during Tipu's attack. And in 1970s, local people found the ruins of the basement and parts of Garbhasri Kovil. That Garbhasri Kovil itself is as big as, which was remaining. Was as big as a normal small temple in Kerala. And the people in that area really wanted to restore the greatness of the Grama Devada, so that they also will they understand the necessity of the greatness of the Grama Devada for the prosperity of the people and the village. So they started rebuilding. They are using only the natural materials, stones and lime and mortar, and trying to build it in the traditional way. Have finished. I had pictures, but the PowerPoint is not working, so you cannot see. So and there are great old inscriptions of Vattaluthu and Kolaluthu inscriptions are there, and have found a lot of very ancient artifacts and coins while during the rebuilding process. And this almost not only half of the work is done yet. Still, it is a great big temple now. They have to build all the after it is taking very slow pace. It's going on in a very slow pace because we are not as efficient as the ancestors now in the building process. And there was, like how the Revati Pattatanam, a Vidwal Sabha which was happening in Samudiri's court. Likewise, Ashwati Pattatanam was happening in this temple of Kolattunadu. And after 400 years, in 2019, again Ashwati Pattatanam was conducted, and in this temple in this year. So this is in Kannur, which is also considered to be a very anti-Hindu place, like Malappuram. And there was another one temple in Kannur, which is not temple in the, not a great temple as like this, but this kind of instances also happens across Malabar. So I wanted to tell this one example as like that. It's 400 years old aristocratic Nambiar family, known as Vailapara Nambiar family. They had to leave their place and escape to some other area during Tipu's invasion. Then the later generation forgot where their actual place was, their ancestral land was. And then as a part of the routine astrological consultation, the family people found out from the astrologer that their ancestral temple remains in some other area, and that need to be, the deities need to be pleased. Then they, according to the guidance of the astrologer, they found out this place where they were actually from. It is near Pariyaram in Kannur. But the land was occupied by Muslims. So after a lot of negotiations and all by the local Hindus and the family members, they could buy 80 cents of land from the Muslims. And they started, while they were clearing the undergrowths and all, they found out an ancient well, pond, and other remains of the temples as told by the astrologer. And in April 2017, a Perung Kaliyatam, which is a grand Teyyam festival, usually happens in the Kannur temples. It was performed after 250 years. And then arrangements were done to rebuilding all the, rebuilding the temple, pond and everything in the real, actual way. Through Deva Prashnam, they found out the presiding deities of the temple have been Vetakuru Magan, that he is son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Urpazhi, deity worshipped as the protector in that area of Kannur, and Bhagavati and the ancestor Guru. So the Balalaya Pradishta was done in September 2018. So I talked about this one last example because similar astrological consultations for normal routine personal or family needs also reveal the need for protecting and worshipping the family deity, Kula Devada, and lot of reconstructions happen from the current generation, by the current generation of Hindus across Kerala. This is no loud noise, we don't hear that because it's a very personal and that's happening. A kind of a silent temple reclamation movement through, by restoring the family deities. So, to conclude, I would say that, I would like to say that with this Malappuram and Kannur, which are so-called very, Hindus are not as free and prosperous as in many other Hindu majority areas. Hindus are really in a very difficult situation. Yet, they, with their limited resources, they try to rebuild what is lost. And they are trying to protect their heritage. They are doing their best to live with dignity. I myself see that as a very inspiring story, like how much they are really protecting their Kula Devada and their and the urge to rebuild what is demolished, which is there, and they are not waiting for anybody else. They are doing it by themselves with the limited resources they have. So that, like whatever I can do by myself, that is what they are looking at. They are not waiting for the government to free the temple and then build this temple, or they are not waiting for the entire people come into consensus and start building a temple by giving a mosque. So with this, I would like to say that this I feel that we all should feel inspired from this silent temple reclamation movement by the Hindus of Malappuram and Kannur. Not just Malappuram and Kannur, across Wayanad, Kozhikode, everywhere you can see. I just picked a few examples from Kannur and Malappuram. So thank you very much.